I visited Okinawa in August of 2015, thinking I would include the protest against the base there in my new film documenting the effects of United States militarism on the people, the culture, the politics, and the environment of the Pacific. As a U.S. history major, I knew next to nothing about the war in the Pacific, except for the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the iconic raising of the flag on Iwo Jima, and from the newsreels in the movie theaters glorifying naval battles in the South Pacific that demonized the Japanese. What I learned about the bloodiest battle of the war on Okinawa and the subsequent colonization of Okinawa and Japan led me to make this short film about Okinawa and the U.S. occupation of that once sovereign nation from 1945 to the very present. This is a brief account of the untold history of the United States and Okinawa since 1945. The Americans came, and they came to stay. From April to June in 1945, the United States defeated the Japanese on Okinawa with overwhelming firepower.
On the island of Okinawa, 5,000 miles from San Francisco, the earth shook from a fearful pounding by our ships and planes. They call it kamikaze, meaning the divine tempest. We call them suicide planes. The fleet that came to stay paid a price too. But our men, our ships, our planes, took everything the land could throw at the sea and handed it back double. The question, could a fleet stand up against the massed fury of land-based planes, got an emphatic answer from the men who fight to live, from the fleet that came to stay.
And stay they did. At stake were air bases vital to the invasion of Japan. The Allied forces suffered 14,000 deaths, with an estimated total of more than 82,000 casualties of all kinds. Japan lost 77,000 soldiers and more than 150,000 Okinawan civilians out of the pre-war 300,000 local population, including all male citizens over 18 and both male and many female students under 18 who were drafted to fight the invaders, were killed, committed suicide, or went missing. As soon as the fighting ended, the Americans came with bayonets and bulldozers to begin the construction of many more bases. Those Okinawans who survived the most brutal battle of the war in the Pacific were forced to leave their land at gunpoint and herded into internment camps where they lived in squalor. What began 70 years ago was an occupation that continues today. Douglas Lummis is an American author and college professor of political theory who has been living in Japan since the 1980s and on Okinawa for the past 15 years. He has been actively involved as a supporter and participant in the protests against the U.S. bases on Okinawa.
And then after the war, Again, Okinawa was used as a sacrifice pawn when the peace treaty was signed. The peace treaty was signed on the condition that Okinawa would continue to be under U.S. military rule. There was a period from the time of the well, actually, from 1945 until Okinawa reversion in 1972, Okinawa was governed by the Pentagon, basically. There was a puppet government underneath the military government, but it was basically governed by the Pentagon. Cars drove on the right, money was dollars. The Pentagon had no economic policy whatsoever, and the country was allowed to stay poor. Okinawa had not been that poor of a place, but everything was destroyed during World War II, and there was very little effort to give aid to rebuild anything. So it was like a third world country.
The occupation and militarization of these Pacific islands continues today with more than 40 bases and tens of thousands of U.S. military personnel and their families in each country. This is Kadena Air Force Base on Okinawa. Its 2 runways stretch for 12,000 feet with hundreds of fighter jets, helicopters, B-52 bombers loaded with nuclear weapons, and transport planes take off and land day and night. There are 20 schools from kindergarten to university surrounding the base in a densely populated area, with U.S. aircraft taking off and landing right above them. American combat training takes place on a daily basis among and around the citizens of Okinawa, including helicopter exercises, counterinsurgency and guerrilla warfare training, and live fire bomb and missile training. Can it be described any other way? The Americans came to stay, constructing more than 40 bases in Japan and Okinawa, with 74% of them located on this tiny island. Okinawa is the largest island in the Ryukyu chain, located 340 miles south of mainland Japan. It comprises 465 square miles, is 70 miles long, and only 7 miles wide. This is the massive, sprawling Camp Schwab, as seen from the beautiful and pristine Ora Bay in Hinoko, Nago City. It is the intended relocation of the Futenma Marine Air Base, which is located in the densely populated area of Jinwan City. And this is Futenma Air Base. There have been various plans for the relocation of this Marine Corps Air Station, located within the densely populated urban area of Jinwan City, with a population of 93,000. In December 1996, as part of the Defense Policy Review Initiative, the Japanese and U.S. governments decided that the Futenma base be relocated to an offshore location in the Ora Bay of Hinoko in Nago City, a relatively less populated area, in order to reduce the military impact on the populated communities of southern Okinawa. This was and remains a controversial decision, since the projected site involves construction on a coral reef and the seagrass beds inhabited by the dugong, a marine mammal protected by both Japanese and U.S. law. The proposed new base will have dual runways stretching out into Ora Bay, where construction has already begun. Once again, the question posed by Dud Hendrick in The Ghost of Jeju: is there any place so remote, so sacred, so beautiful as to be inviolable by the United States military? Apparently, there is no such place. And whenever the weather permits, teams of activists set out into Ora Bay in kayaks and boats to obstruct the construction. Floating barriers are set up in an area about 2 miles in circumference around the proposed construction area to keep activists out. What takes place is a cat and mouse game between activists and the Japanese Coast Guard and police who patrol the area in yachts and rubber boats. Susumu Inamine, the mayor of Nago City, elected on January 20th, 2010, and re-elected on January 19th, 2013, is against the Hinoko relocation plan and argued for the relocation of Futenma outside of Okinawa.
My name is Douglas Lummis. By trade, I'm a college teacher teaching political theory. I've lived in Japan since the 1980s and in Okinawa since the year 2000, so 15 years now. 15 years that I've been here, I've noticed some remarkable changes in the movement against bases. The people have been opposed to bases here for generations now, but in the last 15 years there's been an interesting transformation in the way of thinking of Okinawans. When I first came here to live in 2000, the mainstream of the anti-American base movement was focused on world peace and abolishing the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty and getting all the bases out of Japan. That was the goal. Little by little, this sentiment has not gone away, but is added to this sentiment is an increasing understanding that Okinawa is being treated by Japan as a colony, unequally. When I first came here, the expression on everyone's lips, anyone who talked about the bases would always say, even though Okinawa comprises 0.6% of all Japanese territory, still 75% of all the U.S. bases in Japan are located in Okinawa. Now, if you analyze that statement, that's not a protest against war and militarism. It's a protest against unequal treatment. Without concern for inequality, you wouldn't need to use those statistics, 75%, 0.6%. But hardly anybody in those days would take the next step and suggest what a solution would look like. That is, equal distribution of the bases. That was taboo. What you had to say was all bases should be abolished, or all U.S. bases should be taken out of Japan. But hardly anybody was able to say that. In the 15 years since then, more and more people have realized that, in fact, they're very angry. More and more Okinawans have realized that, in fact, they're very angry about the unequal treatment by Japan, and the fact that most people in Japan are very much in support of the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty, but also want to have the peace constitution, and without seeing the contradiction between those two. Just last week, a new opinion poll came out that indicates that support for the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty is now up to 86%. The Japan-U.S. Security Treaty is the treaty that authorizes the U.S. to put military bases somewhere in Japan. At the same time, 60% of the people support the peace constitution now, which supposedly abolishes war. So that means that most of the people who support the peace constitution also support having U.S. bases here. This, of course, looks like a contradiction. It is a contradiction, unless you understand it as something worse than a contradiction, a kind of hypocrisy. In Okinawa, support for the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty is about 10%, okay, as opposed to 86% in the mainland. You can see how people would start to get angry about that. So 15 years ago, saying Phutema base should be moved to the mainland was taboo. And the few people who would dare to say that received very angry responses, both from Japanese pacifists and from Okinawan activists. Now it's become possible to say that in the mainstream. It's the governor's position, equal, he says, people should share the burden of bases equally, which would mean much, much more than Phutema base would go to the mainland. To be equal, there would have to be a great flood of bases going to the mainland. It's interesting that the government and the U.S. repeatedly say the only solution to the Phutema problem is that moving it to Henoko. That's the only solution. They never say why that's the only solution. Or occasionally somebody in the government will slip and mention why. The reason, of course, is that any place in mainland Japan where you might want to put Phutema base, people will oppose it. And so Okinawan people say, oh, you mean if people oppose the base, you can't build it there? But that's only true in the mainland. During the great economic bubble, when it looked like Japan was becoming rich as hell, there was among the many boondoggling projects, airports, civil airports were built in every little town all over Japan. There are little civil airports everywhere. And now that the bubble is over, many of those civil airports are running in the red and are in great trouble. They just can't make a profit. There are many of them that are sitting there waiting for some help, something that could make them a profitable enterprise. Any one of those in the red civil airports could very easily house Phutema base without filling the bay, without environmental destruction. The main construction has already been done. If there was environmental destruction, it's finished pretty much. There are any number of them that would be wonderful candidates for relocating Phutema base. But that's still not to be talked about. The government will not consider that idea. And the only explanation for it that makes any sense is discrimination.
Permanent protests have occurred outside the gates of Camp Schwab. In fact, there is a 24/7 encampment directly across the street from the main gate where the activists gather, eat, discuss, and many sleep there overnight.
My name is Mayuko Kato, and 27 years old, and I came from Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan.
Why do you come here? Why?
Because I first saw the movie about here. It's made 2005, and one old woman said, "Please kill me if you broke our sea." And I had a very shock, and I don't want to injure the old woman anymore, and I think we have to protect the old woman, old man in Okinawa. So I came here, but then I came here, I don't think it's not only Okinawa problem.
Whose problem is it?
I think it's all over the world. Like Kanjon, that's not only Kanjon problem. Also, Henoko is not only Henoko problem. Japanese government did that. I think it's America and other world, whole world made Japan government like that.
They made Japanese government do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I quit my job.
You quit your job?
Yeah.
To come here?
Yeah, to came here.
How long have you been here now?
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
How long will you stay?
Until this year.
1 year?
Yeah. The American people never hear by the people voice who grab the land, also rape girl. So many people must have to hear the voice of the victims.
Yeah. Does it make you angry to think about it all?
Yeah, make very sad.
Very sad, but
Yeah.
angry? Are you angry?
Also angry, but more sad because maybe they don't know the problem. So, and maybe they don't want to hear. They can stay their daily life, but if they hear once, maybe they can think and belong us, but they don't want to hear. They want to do their daily life. So I think not angry, I think more sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to see all the bases go away, all the American troops go home?
I like American people.
Yeah.
I like the culture and music, but American making a war and make many victims. So American knows about them. So I think all the bases gone is make us a happy face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also we can hand in hand and dance together, American people and Japan. That is the real friendship, I think.
My name is Gyoken Kuroyanagi.
And where are you from?
I was born in Nagano Prefecture. Now I am 62 years old. I have moved to here from Kagoshima Prefecture last year because I want to join this peace movement against American military base, new construction military base. So now I'm coming to here every day. So now this peace movement is a great and a very valuable action because almost all the people, 60, 70, they have a strong faith and determined. I was very happy to join their peace movement now. War is a public big construction business in America. It's a crazy. I hate for them.
What is the message he would like to tell the American people? Okay, so
アメリカ人よ、懺悔しろ。アメリカ人よ、立ち上がれ。以上。Thank you.
and what was that?
He says, American people regret what you have done and rise up.
My name is Hideki Yoshikawa and I'm from Nago City, Okinawa. I've been involved in these issues for the last almost 15 years. I've been working on the, particularly on the environmental front. Take these issues to the IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. I also help, as a supporter, help the so-called Dugon lawsuits taking place in San Francisco, in the U.S.
And
The Dugon lawsuits, it is a very interesting case, and it's taking place in the United States. The plaintiffs are 3 Okinawan people, including Takuma Higashonna. He's from Nago City, as well as the Japanese environmental NGOs and the U.S. environmental NGOs. We are taking the issues to the U.S. court because the base to be constructed here is a U.S. military base. This is a U.S. issue as well. I think my main role is that I be sort of interpreter, communicator of this issue to the international world. That's my main role. That's where I think I'm supposed to play. But because I'm from Nago City, and I close by this base, so I'll go to sit-in. I'll also participate in the blockade of trucks. These activities I will also participate in. That's another way I try to support this movement. I believe that U.S. military bases, which are supposed to protect democracy, human rights, and justice, cannot stand on those false promises, false ideas. U.S. military bases cannot be built where the people oppose.
My name is Yoko Yamaguchi. I'm originally born in Tokyo. Now I live here in Nago City, Okinawa, because I wanted to stop landfilling of this beautiful sea of Henoko, Ora Bay, because Japanese government wanted to build U.S. Marine base here in beautiful Okinawa Sea. So I totally against it. it's not a good idea for both Japanese and American for world.
Do you think that Japan needs all these American bases for safety and security?
No, not at all. I've been here for 10 years, taking my holidays, come Tokyo to here 3 times a year, but eventually I live here to quit my occupation in Tokyo. So now I live here to participate as a canoeist of this beautiful sea.
Every day, 7 days a week, there's a bus that leaves from the city of Naha and carries people to the gate, the main gate at Camp Schwab, which is where the Hinoko construction is scheduled to be, to take place. There's a sit-in in front of the gate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, since January this year. And the bus from Naha goes every day, so there's more people in the daytime than at night. There are also buses that go from Okinawa City, from Ginowan, and from a number of other towns. Not every day, but once or twice a week. I take the Naha bus twice a week when I can. And there's a very interesting phenomenon taking place on the bus. Well, this bus from Naha that leaves every day was not planned to be a place of discussion. It was just planned as a way to get people to the sit-in. But since it's a tour bus that's chartered, it has microphones, and so people pass around the microphones and talk. And little by little, it turned into, in the beginning it was just self-introductions and why I'm on the bus. Mostly people who had no experience in political discussions, some of them very shy, some of them refusing to take the mic until the third time they got on the bus. Little by little, people started developing the ability to have political discussion and the interest in doing it. Now, the interesting thing about the people on the bus is that almost all of them are retired people living on pensions. There's several reasons. One is these are the people who can go every day because they don't have to go to work, and their children have grown up and they're not taking care of their grandchildren in most cases, so they have the time. The other thing is that this is the generation that bears the memory of the Battle of Okinawa, and this is sort of their last chance to make that memory into something concrete. Actually stop a base being constructed. We're the front lines. We're the ones who are going to make it's going to depend on us whether this construction goes on or whether it doesn't. The people on the bus have renamed it the Hinoko University. This is the Hinoko University. We learn so much from each other in this discussion. They have started writing songs about the experience, writing poetry. They print out the words to the songs that they've written and sing them on the bus and at the gate. One of them is a song about the Henoko University. It says, well, maybe I'm old, but I can still sit in. And when you join the Henoko University, you'd never get senile. The people on the bus are not only discussing, but they're carrying out actions. They're confident that they will be able to prevent the construction of this base. They have absolutely no idea of losing. They say over and over, we're going to win this struggle and this base is not going to be built. They're preparing themselves to actually block the trucks when they start, if and when they start bringing in dirt. And they're ready to do that. They're ready to be arrested. And so they have, without thinking about it this way, in a sort of a natural process, they're reestablishing a form of government that is properly called direct democracy or radical democracy. Interesting to them, their lives have simply become much more interesting, much more exciting, much more meaningful than they were before this process began. And so they have no thought of giving it up or getting tired or burning out or anything like that. This is living in its highest form.
The similarities are remarkably glaring between U.S. foreign policy in Japan, Okinawa, and South Korea. In fact, anywhere where you look in the world today, we see the same results of American foreign policy everywhere. In Central and South America, Cuba, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Somalia, Ukraine, and now Syria, to name just a few more recent invasions, regime changes, occupations, and the destruction of entire civilizations, not to mention the many millions of civilian deaths. Since 1945, the United States military has killed more than 22 million civilians. With the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a new era in human history began. It is an era when all of humanity, in fact all life on Earth, can be obliterated. Our only hope, if we are to survive, is a global consciousness where people everywhere rise up against the evil global economic system that not only threatens to enslave us, but destroy us, either through a nuclear Armageddon or because of inactivity on mitigating climate change, ensuring that Mother Nature will end the human experiment. If there is hope, we can find it in the brave people of Okinawa and Kanjong Village on Jeju Island, and in the millions of people on every continent who are rising up against governments that do not represent us.